Every Wednesday morning at this time, we turn our eyes towards the nation's capital. That's where we find the Blacklocks Reporter, the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom covering Ottawa with neither politics nor punditry. You can check it out online and get a subscription for yourself at blacklocks.ca. Well worth the investment, and your eyes will thank you with what you read at blacklocks.ca. Tom Korski is the managing editor there and joins us for these weekly conversations. Good morning, Tom.
Morning, Mike.
I know that money was flowing fast and free during the pandemic. I get it, just shoveling that money out the door. But we are learning just how much of that money went out the door to buy ventilators from an ex-Liberal MP.
Frank Bayless was his name. He had one term from a suburban Montreal riding, but he must have made some good friends. Frank had some good friends. How did they help him? Within days of the outbreak of the pandemic in 2020, Frank was a subcontractor for a brand new general contractor that got a contract worth $250 million, $237 million to supply ventilators to save the nation. Problem? Frank had never made a ventilator before, and he didn't have a ventilator license. That was no problem. He had another problem. His factory was in big trouble. This was a old family company inherited from his folks, and they were extending their line of credit. He'd remortgaged the plant, Mike, but that was no problem because Health Canada gave him a cash advance to make ventilators he didn't have a license to make. What happened to all those Bayless machines? Well, there was 10,000 of them. They were all beautifully wrapped, and they were shipped up to Ottawa, 10,000 of them. And they gave away about 800 as foreign aid to countries like Nepal and Pakistan and Rwanda. And they gave about a couple of hundred, 260 to some provinces and territories. What happened to all the others? This is the 9,000 and more. Well, they're sitting in a warehouse to this day. And it cost $237 million. By the way, I know you like a happy ending, Mike. It saved Frank's company. He turned around and sold it to American investors for $1 billion. And then he ran for the Liberal leadership. Sad news, finished fourth. There's only so much sunshine that can rain down on Frank Bayless. But that's what happens when you have good friends.
A happy ending indeed. One of the problems I have with this, Tom, is these 5 years later, it's not as though our federal government was exactly forthcoming with the monies spent and the ventilators sitting in storage. How did you unearth this?
Oh, absolutely. It's access to information, and it took years to get it. And in some cases, an order from the Information Commissioner with the weight of a court order, threat of litigation to release those documents. Frank Bayless was not the biggest fiasco in ventilator land during the pandemic. There were other suppliers. There was a list of 5 who got sole source contracts. This is on the level, Mike. They sold ventilators at a taxpayer's charge at $22,000 a pop or more, and then turn around without taking these medical devices out of the shipping crates and auction them as scrap metal at pennies a pound, and for as little as $6. They literally sold them by weight. And we see through internal emails, there was even some federal managers saying, good Lord, don't let the taxpayers find out. Talk about high reputational risk. Mike, I don't say this to be witty or funny. If there's ever a judicial inquiry into federal contracting, my opinion, someone's going to jail.
Why should we care where our tax dollars go, Tom?
Honestly.
Why? Yeah.
And what could you do with $237 million in your hometown today in terms of sick kids or a wheelchair ramp at the soldier's home, honestly?
Speaking of dollars and cents, Tom, we're waiting for a budget. We expect to finally get one this fall. But what we're still unsure of is how large that deficit number is going to be.
There is some talk from experienced practitioners on Parliament Hill that this could be a dandy. The bloc leader yesterday, Mr. Blanchette, who's been around and he knows his math, he put it at about $80 billion, $80 billion. The opposition leader, Mr. Poilievre, has put it at $84 billion. Both of these longtime legislators who know how to count. These would be staggering figures. The highest we've seen since the pandemic, extraordinary, everyone remembers they borrowed and spent $500 billion, was 2023. They came in at $62 billion deficit. Oh, they missed their target by 55%. It's interesting. The rumor on Parliament Hill was that's why Carney didn't table his spring budget at the same time as every other public authority in the land, right down to the school boards. Everyone else does their budget in spring. They put it off way down into the fall. I wonder why. Could there be 80 billion reasons? Let's find out.
It's okay, Tom. It's okay. There's a happy ending because I know that, listen, I know it, Tom. I know it because all that revenue that we have generated since legalizing cannabis is more than going to make up for any shortfalls, right?
Sad news.
I said happy ending, Korski.
No, sad news there, Mike. You remember when legalization was to accomplish several things? It was supposed to take organized crime out of the marijuana business. That didn't happen. It was supposed to strictly regulate sales to keep pot out of the hands of high schoolers. That didn't happen. It got worse. And it was supposed to make a bunch of money. The feds at one point said minimum $400 million a year in tax revenue, could be as high as $1 billion. They're nowhere near that. In fact, marijuana tax revenue from legal sales is stuck around $244 million. Our favorite part is, Mike, that is an estimate from the Finance Department through access to information, but that doesn't mean it's cash in hand. What do I mean? Did you know 2/3 of legal marijuana dealers in Canada are behind in their taxes? They're tax delinquent. My goodness, the feds couldn't even make money selling drugs. How do you top that?
You don't. And I'm going to leave it on that note for this week, but we'll try again next. Tom, as always, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mike.
Tom Korski. The federal government couldn't even make money selling drugs. 2/3 of legal cannabis producers in arrears on their taxes. Do you think maybe it's because so many of those shops opened up? I don't know. Anyway, really enjoy the perspective from Tom Korski, managing editor with the Blacklocks Reporter. You are encouraged to check it out for yourself. blacklocks.ca. You'll find all manner of things that you might not find elsewhere, very much worth your time and investment when it comes to a subscription at blacklocks.ca. But the ventilator story, well, let's just say it got my blood pressure rising just a wee bit this morning. And we'll try to cool down from here. But whatever you do, don't let the taxpayers find out, because there is some high reputational risk for the federal government, given the near $250 million spent on all of those ventilators, some of which, by the end of it all, were just being sold for the scrap metal that they might produce through their weight. Wild times. But the money during the pandemic was just being shoveled right out that door.